Hello, my name is Dallin Morgan. I'm doing my presentation on effective intercultural communication. Here's my audience. Today I'll be talking about cultural competence, what it means, why it matters, and how you can use it to build stronger, more respectful connections with people from different backgrounds. Three key points I'll be going over are awareness, barriers, and cultural communication. I've learned about this topic through our class, the book that we've used, Understanding Human Communication, and then another book by Shannon Arndt called Intercultural Communication. Cultural competence is the ability to understand and respect and communicate effectively with people who are from different cultural backgrounds than your own. Culture shapes everything, how we speak, how we listen, how we interpret body language, and even what we consider polite or rude. In the video that I will show soon, they explain high context versus low context communication. High context being heavily reliant on tone and nonverbal cues, and low context being super direct and just telling people what you're thinking.
Okay, what else? Yes, ma'am. I do not understand item H403. H403. A lot of Americans wear these to sporting events. But what's it's hard to explain. We just did. Yes.
I don't understand the purpose of A221.
A221. That's a burger brand. Americans eat a lot of beef, and some people like to burn their initials into their food with a red hot iron before they eat it.
Why?
It's a cow brand. You know, the thing you use to burn a symbol into a cow? No, in America, that's how you keep track of your cows, is branding.
With a red hot iron?
Yeah.
But wouldn't the cow die?
Oh no, we only do it to baby cows. When they're small enough to hold them down. Yes, Asha?
A suggestion, Mr. Todd.
Go ahead.
You need to learn about India.
Here is a picture kind of explaining some of the barriers that we face, especially in work, which would be stereotypes, prejudices, nonverbal misinterpretations, emotional barriers, and then what I talked about before with high context versus low context styles, where some people might expect you to tell them directly, as others are just taking it off of body language and tone, other things like that. Going back into the video that showed a bad cultural awareness. Awareness begins with understanding yourself, your own habits and assumptions, communication style. Many people don't realize how their actions are shaped by the culture when they encounter someone else who communicates differently. How they talk might affect that relationship in their first impression. When we pause and reflect on our own patterns, we create space to better understand someone else's. Second one being barriers. Barriers can take forms such as language differences, stereotypes, misunderstanding of nonverbal cues, or simply different expectations of politeness. Without cultural competence, we might misinterpret messages and unintentionally create conflict. Recognizing these barriers doesn't mean communication becomes perfect, but it allows us to navigate conversations with patience and clarity. I'm going to show another video of how to effectively use cultural communication. First, some ways to actually put this into action is to ask questions, avoid stereotyping, respect differences, listen actively, show empathy, and open your mind.
In high context cultures, yes may mean yes, yes may mean no, and yes may mean maybe, depending on how the yes is messaged. So it's not just the words, it's actually the facial expression, the tonality of the voice, and the body language. Whereas in low context cultures, yes means yes and no means no. I mean what I say and I say what I mean. Direct. Think of some of the issues that comes up. I love Dave Ulrich's definition of listening. Listening is not about have you heard me, but have you understood what I meant? I love that definition. I thought that's really good. And here's the issue. If you come primarily from a low context culture, even when someone says no, and they say no without using the word no, you don't actually hear it. You don't hear it. So then the issue becomes, why didn't they just say no? If they couldn't perform or couldn't get that done on time, why didn't they say no? Well, they probably did, but you just didn't hear it. As I was with a meeting with a client some time ago, was a, we were with a Korean organization, and he came out the presentation saying, oh, I think that presentation went really well. I said, I don't think it went really well. So why not? Because they said they're really interested, they'll give it good consideration. I said, no, that doesn't mean that they're going to think about it. Because when they kind of said that, they took a deep breath in. So it's just paying attention to the cues. So when we listen to people who come from high context cultures, they seem to be kind of beating around the bush. And we don't hear what they say. Whereas when we're coming from low context cultures, how it comes across to high context is, in fact, sometimes we come across as being very rude and very direct. They say, you don't have any heart. Can't you say it in a different way? So once again, different styles of communication. And think about that here. And once again, the thing to remember is that culture is very subjective. In Australia, we consider ourselves to be quite open and quite straight. We take pride in the fact that we call it as it is. I had a client recently who said to me, Tom, I thought we were direct. I had a project manager who came from the United States, and at our first meeting, she had my whole team in tears. She said, I now know what direct is. Because compared to her, we were really soft. However, compared to the Indonesians, we are direct, they were indirect. So culture is always subjective. It's relative to your point of reference.
Tying into our third component of cultural communication, this is intentionally adapting your approach based on who you're speaking to. This might look like adjusting your tone, slowing down your pace, using simpler language, or asking questions to clarify meaning. Also, paying closer attention to nonverbal cues, especially when interacting with someone from a high context culture. Both videos highlight the importance of being flexible and willing to learn. Effective cultural communication isn't about memorizing facts about every culture, but just being able to communicate effectively with those cultures. In closing, cultural competence strengthens the ability to communicate across diverse backgrounds. Today, especially with a bunch of diverse backgrounds in the workplace, teams, just everyday life, practicing intercultural communications is essential to have effective work or build relationships. I hope I could teach you guys something new about intercultural communication. Appreciate your time.